Knightline is brought to you by the Devod team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedevordteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Knight Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 234 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Well, it's a little different this time. This is Knightline 3.0. I'm so glad to be back, and I want to introduce you. You guys all know this guy anyway. But the new co-host of Knightline, we're going to call it Knightline 3.0. This is the third configuration. If you don't remember, I had a guy before Trace. Everybody, said, blah, blah, blah. But there was a guy before Trace. It was Troy. Then Trace came along, and now Roger KnightBengal.
So I'm breaking up the T's.
Yeah, well, whatever. But yeah, exactly. Yeah. So welcome. I appreciate you taking this opportunity to do this, and welcome, because I think we're going to go a long ways with this as well. You have been involved in it from the beginning, really, as a listener and all that stuff, and then, you've done really nice things for us a couple times. That time I went to the Maryland game, I mean, you were instrumental in that. It wouldn't have happened without you. So I thought that you deserved this opportunity. You've been doing a great job with me on Knightline at night. And that's gone through a couple reconfigurations as well, name changes, station changes, and all that stuff. So welcome, and you deserve it, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, man. Like I've told everybody, man, it's a privilege. I'm excited to be part of the UCF universe and take a bigger role on here with Knightline in the network. I've had the pleasure, of course, knowing you for a long time and just making memories with everyone. Starting off with calling in, and it's really been full circle for me. I started calling in. Then we started doing a little bit of the post-game stuff, and then obviously the radio show. So thank you to everyone for welcoming me into their homes. I'm excited about this reboot, right? We get to do it slightly different. It's a
reboot, but it's not. It's going to be the same kind of thing, but it's just a little bit different, and it's fine. Things needed to change. I'm not going to say much about this whole situation, but things needed to change for a long time. So no hard feelings to Trace or anything like that, but change was needed. People only work together for so long and get along. Yeah. So it was meant to be, and this is what we got. This is what we're doing. It's a new thing, and we're just moving on.
Yeah,
so,
and I'm excited about it, man.
All kinds of things have changed over this time anyway. Nothing is the same as it was the last time we did an episode.
Absolutely.
Things are just completely different. So for anybody who doesn't know you, just tell them a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a former athlete as well, as Andrew is. I played football and basketball. Played a little semi-pro basketball in my youth. I started at UCF in 1999. I've actually got went there for the undergraduate degree in engineering, and then also followed that up with an MBA. So, love my Knights. My first game.
And what's your degree in?
There's the MBA, and then the aerospace engineering is the undergrad. Yeah, I nerded out a little bit in college, but somehow I managed to do that while going to bowl games. I don't know if you remember, but going to the Citrus Bowl, handling the trough, tailgating, avoiding vagrants that were populating the parking lot. And my first game was actually the toilet bowl game. So we had the bowl queen. She had her plunger that she walked around. And
really?
She was,
so there was I wasn't around at that point. So there was an actual game that was called a toilet bowl game?
Yep, it was. And we had the bowl queen that walked around, and she literally, her scepter, for lack of a better term, was a plunger, and she had rolls of toilet paper wrapped around her, kind of like a
You couldn't
toga.
do that these days.
No,
that would be like sacrilege.
Yeah.
With the toilet paper. All right. Well, so who was that game against? Do you remember?
Dude, I have no idea.
Okay. Why did they call it the toilet bowl game?
I think it was just a play on the Citrus Bowl, and they were trying to create some sort of, homecoming something or other. And I just vividly remember her walking around and drinking a lot and thinking, oh my God, there's a girl walking around here with a toilet bowl plunger scepter and drinking a lot of beer.
All right.
But I visited the troughs a few times there, and that
I've
evening
heard
as
many
well.
stories. Yeah, there's a lot of places that had those back in the day. All right. Well, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Practice was supposed to start this week, and we'll talk a little bit more about why that didn't happen, and all that stuff. We got some KZ news that everybody's heard at this point.
Woo-hoo.
KZ is cleared. Danny White talked a little bit this week about, the happenings and all that with the American and the schedule and all that. Football recruiting is rocking. Definitely seeing stars. And then a new segment that you came up with, that Roger came up. So it's not my fault. If you don't like it, it was Roger's thing, and it's called, roasting takes? Is that what you're calling it?
Yeah, I guess we'll start with that. We're roasting takes, so basically...
No. I'm just saying what's going on.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, just basically it's an idea where either we take a hot take and we like it, and we like it and we say, yay, it's a hot take, or a good hot take, or we're roasting it, where it's just terrible.
All right. And then players seeing dollar bills. This is an interesting deal. And Law and Order, the NCAA edition, could be interesting. And then, of course, when will football practice start? And your questions and Ask Knightline. We'll talk about that as well. So, starting off here, I guess we're going to talk about this whole thing with the players seeing dollar bills. Along with the COVID stuff, we have a new thing that's everybody, I guess the Pac-12 started this whole thing, and now it's impacting other conferences. And practice got held up this week because of an article that's in Sports Illustrated. I don't know if you've had a chance to read it. You've had a chance to read it, obviously, but players are making demands, basically, to the American and to UCF. Now, I'm not totally sure that this was players making these demands, and I don't think that it was, personally, especially with an article that came out in the Sentinel this morning. I think it was Matt Murschel that wrote it. And he let a little bit more insight into it. There's also some stuff on UCFsports.com that Brandon wrote about it. Mike Bianchi wrote an article about this, so you've probably heard about this. But why don't you run through some of the stuff that they're asking for, basically? And some of this stuff has already been covered by UCF, especially the COVID things, and it seems to be, Danny White seems to think that it's all good with those things. This other stuff, though, I mean, there's some of this is crazy talk. It's crazy talk.
I agree.
Especially when it comes to the money thing, and we'll get to that in a second. Go ahead and just start, just read some of those things that we have here.
The first thing was getting rid of liability waivers. So you heard like Ohio State and some of these other big universities start putting those out there to protect themselves with regard to COVID. So the players or these representatives are asking to get rid of those liability waivers. They're also
I don't think that's going to happen, by the way.
No, I don't think so either.
You got to sign a liability waiver. Anytime you play any sport, whether it's from Pee-wee level all the way up, you sign a liability waiver.
Yeah, absolutely.
Period. About all kinds of things.
Yeah, football's a rough sport. It's going to happen.
Any sport is a rough sport. Any sport you can get injured and have to have surgery and anything else. So I don't care if you're a third grader playing soccer. your parents are gonna sign a liability waiver. Everybody signs liability waivers.
Well, the other thing about this too, I mean, if we're talking specifically about this whole COVID thing, they already have the option to opt out. So it's
Exactly.
like it's not like anybody's forcing them to play. So if you want to sit, if you're worried about it, totally understand. Sit out the year. Don't worry about it. The liability waivers for everybody else. Right. They're acknowledging that they're playing.
So the next one goes into that a little bit. Guaranteed spot if they opt out on the roster plus their scholarship. From what I understand, that's already pretty much a done deal. And Danny White elaborated on that a little bit and said that, I mean, that's what we're doing with our kids. So I don't see why that would be a problem.
It's not.
I don't think a lot of these are. Go ahead with the next one.
Next one's going to be guaranteed redshirt if they miss more than 50% of the games.
Well, if you play more than 4 games by NCAA rules, you have played your season.
Right.
So 50% of the games, that's a little bit longer of time, though, from 4 games. Because if there's a 12-game season...
Even if they play a 10-game season, you're at 5 games.
Yeah.
So no matter what, every single conference has come out with a 9+1 or 8+4.
And that is the NCAA's rule.
Correct.
That is not the conference's rule, so let's take that one off the table.
Agreed.
The next one, guaranteed medical and health care coverage for injuries and COVID. What got left out of this sentence right here was for 5 years they want this after they graduate or are done playing the sport for the school. They want health care coverage for 5 years. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and let's be real about this. They get health care coverage. KZ's the perfect example. We
Right.
have some of the best doctors, but
for 5 years after your career is over,
yeah,
no,
no.
ain't gonna happen.
No,
Ain't
this
gonna
isn't
happen.
professional.
Yeah, not gonna happen. Weekly COVID testing all year round, twice a week during minimum during the season. I'm pretty sure that's pretty much what it is anyway. It's going to be.
It is for UCF.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. We had the whole Houston situation, and you have the Hawaii thing going on. Not all of the schools are doing that, even within our conference. So what they're asking for, UCF, I feel like, is already doing it. I think what they're asking for is the other schools within the conference, because we're going to primarily play them, for them to do the same.
Yeah. Okay. Transparency during the season on team cases and opponent cases, which there should be anyway.
Within the team, absolutely.
And even, for the other teams, you should be able to find that information out. Now, there's this thing called HIPAA.
Yep.
That is the Healthcare Information Protection Act or something like that. I can't remember exactly what I deal with it every day at work, but I couldn't tell you what the acronym actually stands for. It's basically that your healthcare information is guarded as a secret from everybody else, basically. So, you could say 3 guys on that team over there tested positive. You can't tell them who tested positive. That's against HIPAA.
HIPAA. Mm-hmm.
It's the same way with where I work or where you work or where anybody that's listening works. They can tell you in your company that so-and-so tested positive without using their name. Some person tested positive in our company. Besides that, they can't tell you anything more than that. You have to figure it out for whoever's missing, I guess.
To me, it's like an injury report. I mean, you just say, hey, there's
anything.
Yeah, there's three people out for COVID. You're going to have to assume that there's rules in place that those people aren't going to play on the field if they've identified them. So I don't really see what difference it makes. But, if they just say, hey, you've had 3, that's one thing. Yeah. I don't know if they're wanting to know, hey, if you've got 20 cases over there, that could be a concern, because then it could spread.
That's between them to work out. And if the schools or the conference or whoever wants to do that, that's fine, I guess. But they have to do it within the HIPAA rules.
Absolutely.
So AAC provides the latest health info, and I believe that they're doing that. The schools especially are providing the latest info that they know. And you guys all know how this is weird right now. We're getting this information from this guy and this information from that guy. And sometimes they don't they're not cohesive. Sometimes they're different, ideas of what. I mean, look at the news. The news will tell you one thing one day. It'll tell you another thing another day. A politician will tell you something, whatever. Obviously, we're not going to get political on here, but that's hard to do. But from the medical experts that are involved with the teams in the league, that is not a problem, and I guarantee that's not a problem. They're getting the latest information, all of the players.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if it's just a communication through the school to actually get to the players from the AAC, because I can tell you this for a fact, that UCF is partnered, obviously, with their healthcare provider, and they're providing those updates for them constantly. With regard to the AAC, I don't know how much of that's being communicated through to the players versus just through the schools, and the schools are not then communicating.
Well, I think that's the school's issue, personally.
It is.
This is the next thing that is a little crazy. Hazard pay for all student athletes, an even distribution of 20% of AAC revenues. That's a lot of money. Now, this is completely different from what they're already getting, by the way. They're getting a scholarship, they're getting room and board, they're getting their books, they're getting meals, they're getting all kinds of stuff already. They want on top of that 20% of AAC revenues. That's crazy talk. That's crazy.
Well, most of that's coming from the basketball side. It's not coming from the football side. I mean, you've got some payouts from the CFP, right? But other than that, it's all basketball attorney credit. So
yeah, well, number one, in the state of Florida, Governor DeSantis has already said that in the state of Florida, they're going to go with the whole image and likeness thing. You can make money off of that. That's going to take a little bit of time, though, through all the people that are involved, the NCAA, the schools, the government, all those things to get that going. This has nothing to do with that, but I understand that they want some kind of hazard pay. Well, a lot of us worked the entire time during this COVID-19 thing.
we both did.
And, well, I didn't work the entire time, but I worked most of it. I didn't get any hazard pay. I'm still not getting hazard pay. A lot of the healthcare workers didn't get hazard pay.
What it boils down to me is if you have the option to opt out, you can sit.
Exactly.
We're UCF, every single person that we have on our roster can sit and have their scholarship. They're going to honor their scholarship. I've got a quote,
by the way, about this from Danny White saying this. So, yes, they have every opportunity to sit out if they want to. They do not have to play. But making demands for 20% of the league's money is crazy. That's hurting your school.
Yeah.
That's all that's doing. That's hurting the revenue of your school. So there's no way that will ever happen.
Well,
there's no way.
And all of that goes back, I mean, you think about UCF's budget, all of that revenue goes back to reinvest in the student-athlete experience to begin with, right? So, I mean, you've got trainers, you've got nutritionists, you've got athletic facilities.
Where do you think all that money comes from?
Yeah.
I mean, donors pay some of it, obviously, but the league money, that's where that comes from. So this is silly as far as I'm concerned.
Well,
I understand wanting to know and be guaranteed things. I understand that. As far as like your roster spot, your scholarship, all that stuff that's guaranteed to you anyway, I understand being worried about that. And the NCAA, as far as I know, has not made a definitive rule on how that's supposed to work yet.
They haven't made a rule on anything.
Exactly. So maybe these demands should have been delivered to the NCAA instead of the American, and to the teams, to the coaches, the athletic directors, and all that stuff. I've seen one player from UCF say something on Twitter, and it was pretty cryptic. Mm-hmm. So where are all the players speaking out about this if this was a player-originated thing?
Well, and there's been a few parents of players that have been out there, and from what my understanding is it's an individual who's contacting players, and it was a few players, and they basically just regurgitated what had already been sent out by the same person in the Pac-12.
Yeah, and this guy, I don't know how to say his name, Ramuji Huma.
I'm gonna go Ramoji Huma. That's pretty close.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty close, but. Yeah, so this guy has been trying for a long time, actually, to unionize college athletics. And I don't know why he wants to do that. He probably wants to make some money off of it somehow, but I don't know. Somehow this came out that UCF was the one that started this. I think that he probably picked up on UCF because UCF is very popular. UCF is talked about everywhere now. And he thought that was the best school to start with in the AAC because of their popularity and they're under the microscope a lot with all of the leagues. Really, everybody knows who UCF is. So he saw an opportunity, I believe. It's just my personal opinion, but I think that that's what happened. And I think that this has. I just think that nowadays. Everybody wants to protest everything. Everybody wants to stand up for this and stand up for that and kneel for this and whatever. I'm not going to get into that either. But I feel like this is one of those things. Well, college football players can either play the game or they don't have to. Nobody's forcing them to do anything. Either play the game or don't. I can guarantee you that if this would have happened during George O'Leary's years, he would have said either put your helmet on and go out there on that field and play or get the hell out of my program. I guarantee it. My coach, when I was playing college football, would have done the exact same thing. He would have laughed at us and told us to get back on the field. Either get on the field or go home.
The thing that frustrates me with all of this is we're intertwining two different issues, right? You've got the COVID issues, and again, most of this is already being addressed by UCF, right? And we're there. Then you start putting in player compensation and starting to slide that in there. That's a whole nother thing. And the argument that they're making for the 1 year 20% conference revenue thing is that they're being impacted and their families are being impacted. My heart goes out to them because I've had family members, I've had coworkers that have been impacted by this, and I get it.
We all have.
We all have.
I mean,
it's a crappy situation, but at the end of the day, what it boils down to is they're two separate issues,
and they're making it seem like that this is the AAC's fault or the school's fault or whatever. It's a fluid situation. All these things are changing constantly. They're coming up with new protocols. They're, saying, oh, well, maybe that didn't work. So they come up with something different. That's the way this works.
But it costs money, man. I mean, think about it this way. Just for the testing protocol alone, I was looking at this. It's $250,000 a year just for the football testing protocol. Now, we're not talking about any of the other sports here.
That's for one school.
For one school. Yeah. For testing.
For instance, UCF.
Right.
Yes.
For testing. That's it. None of the other additional...
Are they asking the players to pay for that?
No.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, but the students want, or these athletes, this group of athletes, whoever they are,
and it's not
ghosts.
all of them.
They're
it's
ghosts.
A small
I know they're
group.
Ghosts at this point, though, because not one of them has stepped up on social media and said a word about it. That's what's fishy about it to me. They're asking for 20%. And they don't realize how much money is being spent and how much revenue is being lost already this year. Because the revenue that's going to be lost if fans can't attend, the revenue from season tickets, from concessions, from all the things that are sold, merchandise, all these things, that's a lot of money. It's a big, big deal. And I have a quote later on from Danny White about that, too. It's a huge deal. And he doesn't know how he's going to handle it. We'll hear that later. But anyway, so there has been some resolution from what we understand. Players held their own players only practice on Thursday, supposedly, and Friday. And they were supposed to do one this weekend. And then possibly next week on Monday it will start for real. Supposedly these things that were talked about in this article in Sports Illustrated, which is, I find it odd that Sports Illustrated got it before. In fact, Mike Oresco, the guy that we seem as missing most of the time. And
Milk Carton Oresco.
Yeah, Milk Carton Oresco. Didn't know anything about it, is what he said. And then Sports Illustrated obviously gave him a copy of this thing. He wrote it, and he basically said, I don't know where this is coming from. So, it's...
Well, I mean, I would expect he's not going to throw one of his league members under the bus, right? But there was a quote from another conference member who said, this is UCF's problem, and now it's becoming all of ours.
Yeah.
And
I don't think it was UCF's problem, again. I think that this was from a third party.
Yep.
Might have been some parents involved. Some of them can be very vocal. But I don't think it was players, because most of the players that I know want to play the game.
Yeah.
Want to play the season and don't care about most of this. Obviously, they want to be safe.
Right.
They want to, be as safe from the COVID thing as possible, but all the rest of this stuff was thrown in, as you said a little while ago. So, I don't know. You have down here discussion on or thoughts on paying players. We've kind of gotten into that before. Like I said, the governor of Florida made it basically where that can happen. There's no rules yet, though.
No, there's
once
not.
Those rules are made, once everybody comes to an agreement, it'll be a long legal case of getting those rules worked out, because it's not going to be schools that decide this. It's not going to be conferences that decide this. It will be the NCAA.
Well, that and the federal government.
And the federal government.
Yeah, because it's going to be taxed and everything else, just like other revenue.
So that's a long time from happening, as far as I'm concerned. Especially the way that the NCAA does things.
Well, and it's a snowball effect, right? So you've kind of seen student athletes ask for certain things, and you've seen pretty much everything passed. Being able to eat at the dining facilities whenever they wanted. Changing the training tables was a big issue at one point. Then the NLI came out, and you're starting to see that now. Name and likeness, right? And that's all been approved. And
in the state of Florida, not in a lot of states, but the NCAA
California
did make a thing, that said we're okay with it. We just have to make some rules.
Yeah. So
but no rules have been made anywhere.
No, and if anything, the NCAA has so many different... I mean, think about it this way. If one state has it versus another state, and I know we didn't intend to go down this path, but if Florida and California and Texas has it, right, and nobody else does, that does create an imbalance in opportunity.
Absolutely.
For those state schools, which is why I think, DeSantis said, hey, let's get this done, because I don't want to disadvantage UF or FSU or UCF or Miami or anybody.
FAU,
right?
FIU,
exactly.
Whatever. Yeah, everybody.
So at the end of the day, there are opportunities to make money, but what the NCAA and the member schools have to think about is, when do we put our foot down? Because every time something like this comes up, it's been passed, right? When is that, hey, you can sit if you choose to. We're going to continue with our rules, because at some point it's no longer amateur athletics and it's no longer college football.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's not amateur once you're getting paid, period. That's always been the rule. Now, I was completely against this in the beginning. I was completely against it. I'm not completely against it anymore. For certain things, I do believe that players should get compensated. I looked at a couple of things that came to mind for me personally. Number one, we don't have NCAA football from EA Sports anymore.
No, I want that.
Because of that. Because players likenesses, they used players' attributes, to make that game. Yes, it didn't say the name of the guy. It was some random name. But you knew who number 12 was as a quarterback on that team. So I think on that, players should be able to get paid. I want that video game back, number one.
Yeah, I do too.
And that's my main reason for that. Well, come on. But mostly. Also, everybody knows when you go into the bookstore at UCF and you buy a number 18 jersey, you know whose jersey that was. That is likeness, even though the name isn't on there. But they sold more 18 jerseys because that person wore number 18 than if it was a random one.
Or they presented it to begin with, because they only, when you go to the bookstore, there's only a few numbers you can choose from.
Right, and those numbers are very popular players.
Exactly.
So stuff like that. But then, where do you draw the line? That's the big question with all this. So it will be worked out at some point. It may be years down the road that it's worked out. I'm sure there's going to be somebody coming back and saying, "Oh, well, I want an into that because, for a long time they made money off of me." Whatever. So, are we going to see programs and things with fake players on there? Are you not going to see any pictures in anything? I don't know how all that's going to work.
Well, the other part about it, too, is it's a branding opportunity for the player, right? I mean, you think about it, what they're doing when they're going through college, and let's be real about this. Most players are not going to go to school, right?
Yeah.
It's a benefit,
right?
And it definitely has value, because I can tell you that I didn't have a scholarship when I went to school, and I had to pay for it, right? And there's definite value there. However, at the end of the day, for them, it's about making it to the NFL. So 4 years of
football players,
football players, or baseball or anything else, right?
Right.
Football, an example, because this is what we've been talking about. You get unique coaching, unique training, unique dietary to optimize your performance. You get room and board. You get your scholarship. You don't have to worry about food. You get to travel anytime you want. But all of those are investments in that student athlete's body for peak performance. Right? And that training helps them optimize themselves. Because I guarantee you, there's no Kobe's in football. I don't see anybody leaving high school football and being able to play with 300-pound men or 400-pound men in the NFL that can run a 5.7 40. Right? You don't see that in high school.
Right.
So that's all an investment, and then there's value too.
Fast, but
for a lineman.
Yeah, for linemen, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, not anymore. But that's pretty slow these days with a lot of guys.
4.7.
But, yeah. Yeah, so I still think that college athletes are getting a lot for what they're giving. They're getting a lot. They're getting the education. They're getting everything that you just mentioned, and they're getting the opportunity to be seen. And
it's their brand.
It is their brand, and they make their brand on the field. But now, I guess they want to sell their brand. So we'll revisit this eventually. But I think we should move on.
Yep.
Are we set there with that stuff? I'm sure that a lot of you will disagree with us about something or another that we talked about in there, but that's fine. It is what it is. Not everybody's going to agree with me. There's not everybody that's going to agree with you. There's going to be a lot of people that don't agree with both of us, and that's fine. All right, well, the next most exciting news, way more exciting, Mackenzie Milton basically has been cleared to resume training at his own pace, is kind of what a couple quotes here really quick that I got from. One of them was published, one of them was not. This quote was not published. He will know when he's totally ready to play again at a high level. This was a quote that his dad gave me after the tests the other day when he went to go up and to the Mayo Clinic and get everything checked out. You've all pretty much seen video. If you're listening to this, you've seen the video at this point of him working out in front of the doctors and miraculously being pretty good.
Yeah, that 3-cone drill.
Yeah, that was pretty good. I probably couldn't even get close to that, and everything works perfectly fine on me. It's just old. And then his mom put this out on social media. Knight fans, thank you for praying and encouraging KZ all the way back to great health. Mackenzie has experienced healing and miracles that have surprised so many. His evaluation went very well. He will start a new phase of recovery, and all I can say is God is good. So that is all awesome.
It's great news. I mean, the big thing for KZ and that he's always said, right, and it's struck in my mind is, I will come back to play only when I can compete at the level or better than what I was before. So KZ is very level-headed.
Yeah.
He's a smart kid. He's wise beyond his years, and I truly believe that. I mean, just thinking about, and when this first happened, we've talked about this in the past, the fact that he's hopping around on one knee, right? On that knee,
Yeah.
across the field like that in the practice facilities, I mean, that's a miracle all in itself.
It is.
And the kid is driven, motivated, and if anybody can do it, he can.
I'm not going to get all religious on y'all, but I believe I've been in the medical industry for 27 years now. I've worked in ICUs. I've worked in the back of an ambulance. I've worked in emergency rooms. I've been in surgery rooms. I've worked in all kinds of different areas of medicine, and I can tell you that some things happen in medicine that aren't supposed to and cannot be explained. This is one of them. Because this shouldn't have happened. It does not happen very often. That especially in this period of time, that somebody gets better and miraculously heals the way that he has. I'm just going to leave it at that.
I'll take your word for it.
But I've seen multiple times with friends of mine and with people I didn't really know, except for taking care of them in those hospital situations. I've seen things that shouldn't have been. But they were. So that's all I'm going to say about that.
So all I'm going to say is I'm happy that he's progressing the way that he is.
And he's not going to be starting quarterback when they come out and play.
No.
I guarantee that.
No.
It would be nice. It would be awesome. It ain't going to happen.
He wouldn't let himself be that
I
for
don't
the
think
team.
so. If he wasn't the best player. And, I mean, a lot of things have happened. He's not going to be the same player. You can never expect Mackenzie Milton to come out and be the same guy after that, as far as a player. He's going to be wearing a brace, for one. He will never play a down of football without that brace on, no matter what. So that will hold him back a little bit. But you never know. I mean, you never know. He has done incredible things so far. We'll see what happens when he's ready. I believe the reason that has been said like that, and UCF didn't put out a big announcement, nothing like that. They're leaving it to him. Mm-hmm. They want to leave it to him, and it should be left to him. When he's ready, he'll come out and play.
Yeah, I don't think they're trying to pressure, and to be,
and nobody should. The fans shouldn't. Nobody should pressure him.
And the flip side of that is we're in a good position in the quarterback room too. So for him, there's not a whole lot of pressure there either from his teammates, right? I feel like everybody, whether it be his teammates, whether it be the fans, whether it be us sitting here, we all are invested in him, and we all want what's best for him, and we all trust that he will make the right decisions to do that.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a little bit of a break here, and we'll be right back to talk more.
Well, that's great. Up next, we'll be having football recruiting news as UCF is seeing stars. Lots of great news on the recruiting front as Knightline 234 returns.
Not bad.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Hey Jeep Wrangler owners, have you ever sat in your office at work and watched the rain just pour into your Jeep because the weatherman said that there was a 0 chance of rain? Or you put your doors back on because there was a 100% chance and then not a drop of rain fell? Well, there's a company out there that can help take the worry away and give you the peace of mind to be without your doors. The company's called Life Without Doors. They make waterproof rain curtains and dash covers for Wranglers. Life Without Doors is there to help make the decision to leave the doors at home an easy one. Find out more at lifewithoutdoors.com. Alrighty, back, and we're going to talk football recruiting now. What a huge week it was for UCF recruiting. 2 recruits, 4 stars, both of them, transferring in. One from Georgia and one from Nebraska, which I love. I think this is awesome. I'm going to let you take this a little bit, and we can talk about it when you're complete.
Okay, great. So 2 Florida boys coming back home to UCF. So super excited about this. I've been kind of teasing this on Knightline at night, and excited to say that our first 4-star transfer is going to be a DB by the name of Devod Wilson. I apologize if I'm not saying that correctly, but I think that's right.
I think so, too. It's spelled a little different.
He's a transfer from the University of Georgia. He's going to have 3 years to play, and he's from Miami Northwestern originally. Great school. He's 6 foot, 183 pounds. He's the class of 2018. And he's gotten a lot of playing time. So this isn't a guy that's been sitting on the bench and is just wanting to get out of Dodge, out of Georgia, and trying to find UCF. He's wanting to come back home. He's got some significant playing time. And actually, he was recruited originally by Travis Fisher when he was still here. And then obviously, when they jetted out of town, maybe they tried to do that there in Nebraska as well. But he was being recruited by T-Fish. I watched his video on his huddle clips and some of his college tape, and he's got great speed. He's a phenomenal ball hawk. I mean, this guy was in high school was just picking off everything left and right. What was very interesting with him was his ability to accelerate. Now he would sit on routes, and most players who, if he's playing in a zone defense or something like that, they're too slow to pick a pass. And he was just, the quarterback he could look it off.
He would jump it. Yeah.
He would jump that route, man. And it was just his acceleration and his speed. And I think it was something in the neighborhood of 6 or 7 interceptions that you saw him do that. So,
and he had some highlights last year because he did play as a freshman at Georgia.
Yeah.
So there were definitely some definite highlights, and you can look those up. I'm sure they've been on social media and stuff like that. I'm going to look real quick because I want to see his offers, and I know that there were a lot. So his offers were Georgia, Alabama, Florida, Iowa State, Louisville, Michigan, Nebraska, North Carolina State, Rutgers, South Carolina, South Florida, Syracuse, UCF, Vanderbilt, and Clemson. So he was offered by all of those guys. Took visits to Georgia, Alabama, Louisville, South Carolina, and UCF out of those. So he did visit here. He knew, what. So what's going on here is players, especially with the COVID thing, want to be closer to home. For if there was something that happened, a relative that's sick or something like that, it just seems like a lot more players want to come home, at least to their home state. It's given some guys some reason to want to be closer to home. So that's what's happening, and UCF is in the perfect spot because all these kids from Miami and anywhere in Florida, you know how good the Florida kids are, especially the guys that come out of Miami. And we have Randy Shannon. Randy Shannon, I guarantee you, is a lot of the reason that these guys came to UCF. I guarantee it. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, lazy Randy. Lazy Randy really helps with recruiting. He's always been an incredible recruiter, and that's why these guys are here, both of them.
Well, what's interesting too with this is we actually only had one scholarship available for 2020. These are 2020 folks that we're bringing in. We're actually borrowing forward for next year to make this happen, and there's one more that's actually in play. Deontay Marks, I believe is his name, from University of Florida, 3-star receiver.
Yeah, that's a weird situation with that guy. We'll see how that plays out. But talk about the other guy a little bit, because he's exciting too.
Okay, so we have a 4-star safety, Jaden Francois. He's, as you mentioned, a ginger snake transfer from Nebraska. He should have 4 years to play because he only played...
Ginger snake? Oh, Cornhusker. I see.
Scott Frost.
Oh, well, yeah, that too.
So
I love this, by the way. I love that we're getting a player. Now, he was a little... He had some... This has been an odd recruiting for this guy, period. Because he committed to another school.
Miami.
Was it Miami?
It was Miami.
And then he decommitted.
Yep.
And then went to Nebraska, and he hasn't stepped foot on the field yet there.
He had a couple of practices that he participated
in this spring, and
Yep.
that was it, though. So he's a class of 2020 guy, and then now he's coming home to where he should be, and probably should have been in the first place, here to UCF. So go ahead. Sorry.
No. That's fine. What? To your point, I mean, that's 4 years to play. So it's basically like we recruited a 4-star player right out of high school, right? So we're not losing anything by having a transfer. So he's 6'1". He's 182 pounds. He was in the top 300 players nationwide. He made all-day first team selection. He's super fast and aggressive. I love him on run support. He played a lot on run support, so he's a hard hitter. He's also a solid returner. Now, both of these guys actually played a role in the return game. With Devod, he was playing on the punt returners. With Jaden, he was playing both in punt and kick returns. So both of them are burners. Both of them have solid vision. He's also a great blanket DB. So when he was, if you watch him, Devod would make up with some mistakes or spacing issues with his speed. This guy was blanketing his assignment the whole time. So it's a little bit different style. He plays smart in the zone. And, both of these guys, it's really, really good for us because we're losing a lot of star DBs out of our backfield. So getting some guys that have been in a system that are coming in that are not necessarily like with Mr. Francois, yes, he's a freshman, but he's not really a freshman. He's been playing within the system. He's been at a P5 level, nutrition program, weight training program, all that fun stuff. So we need those guys to come in, and I'll be honest with you, the future is bright at DBU.
Oh, absolutely. So he had offers from Nebraska, Auburn, Florida Atlantic, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Syracuse, and UCF. So both of these guys had UCF offers, and they decided that they went to the wrong place maybe, and they're coming home. So
yeah, they're making better decisions.
Both guys out of Miami, like I said. So this is a good deal. We're set for these guys. May not play this year. They may play this year.
Well, I do think that I feel that the NCAA would have a very hard time, especially with both of them stating that they wanted to be closer to family due to COVID concerns.
Yes, they'll probably get their waivers to play, but it doesn't mean that they're just going to step in and play.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Excuse me. Haven't done this for a while, so the voice is getting a little dry. So, yeah, excellent stuff, though. And then, like you said, still possibly in play for the receiver out of
Florida,
Deontay. And he supposedly, I think what happened was, from what I understand, he committed here without having an official offer.
Correct.
For transfer. And then when word got out about that, our good friend Jeff Lebby up at Mississippi State jumped on that, and he committed there, but it seems like it's iffy as well. So,
yeah, well, it's not just iffy. I mean, he pulled everything down off of his social media about that within a day. So
did he?
Yeah. From what I understand, he is he really wanted to go to UCF. That's his first choice. Our challenge was we were juggling several opportunities, and we had to figure out how to make room for all of them. So, I mean, if you think about it, we're getting creative with the 2 DBs already, and this is a third person, so you're bringing 3, and you had 1 open Scully. So,
and then guys just inviting themselves in, basically, which is, I mean, and he's a good receiver. I mean, obviously, it would help our situation a little bit. But you don't just invite yourself in the door.
No, and I think, if they had to make a choice, and I think that this was the coaching staff saying, hey, we've got several opportunities. Can we make it work with all 3? Is it worth it to make it work with all 3? And if we can get the 2, our biggest need is not wide receiver, it's DB right now.
Right. And that set us up for the future versus this guy. I mean, he still has a couple of years of eligibility, obviously. I was trying to find his, is he a class of 2019?
I believe he is.
Yeah. I don't see him on here. Oh, yeah, Dante Marks. Let's see. He's from DeLand.
Mm-hmm.
So
local kid,
very local. Let's see what his offer list looked like. Okay, so he had offers from Florida, Florida Atlantic, Louisville, Marshall, Mississippi State, Nebraska, UCF, and West Virginia. So he did have a UCF offer that he did not take the first time. So a pretty good offer list as well. He's an interesting guy, though, as far as a player. He's fast, for sure. So he's not the biggest guy. They say 6'2". I don't know about that. 6'2", 177, they're saying.
Well, whenever they go to Florida, they gain an extra inch. So
right, exactly. So, yeah, we'll see. I have a guy that I can talk to about this guy at some point. I just have to see him. So, another friend of mine whose kid played at DeLand, so I can find out a lot more about him. So we'll see what happens with that. It's coming up quick where something needs to get done with these guys that are coming in for this session. So.
Yeah, I mean, Francois and Devod are here. They're on campus. They've already gone through the system and have been approved on the academic side. So I don't know if it may be something why we haven't heard anything is maybe because of that. And we didn't even hear anything about Devod Wilson or Francois until recently. I do know that both of them had lockers ready for them on the first day of practice. So that was obviously a good sign. And I don't know, especially with him, with Deontay talking to both Mississippi State and us, I don't know what the situation is there either. If he started the transfer process there and then is trying to, switch that back up because we said, hey, we are good. You can transfer here. But I will say this, all in all, great gets for us. It seems like we're coming out on the better end of the transfer portal, especially when it comes to COVID-related stuff. So great get for us. Excited to see these guys on the field. And to your point, I think the DBs that we have out there now are good enough that we won't see them this year. They'll have a chance to come into our system and then grow into their roles for the following year.
Absolutely. All right, so let's move on here. We're going to talk now about Danny White. Danny White had a Zoom press conference the other day after the AAC basically, I believe, came out and said what they were going to do. We were doing the 8+4, so that means 8 conference games, and then you can play 4 non-conference games. So still 12 games, and that's good. Danny White obviously had some comments on this stuff. Let's get to this one here real quick. This is Danny White on the 12 game and why they decided it was going to be 12 games. I'm sorry for the audio. You guys know that I freak out about bad audio. I cannot stand Zoom because of this.
I know the ACC is still trying to figure things out. I expect that we'll learn something pretty quick as they finalize their schedule. Very optimistic about the Georgia Tech game in particular. I think that the way our fans travel, even in a lower capacity situation, we're all probably looking at. We're an attractive home game for them. I know our coaches and student athletes and our fans are really excited about that. So very optimistic about that one, and still waiting to learn more about North Carolina. And in terms of the rest of the non-conference, my goal is to fill 12 games before the start of the season. Obviously, there's a lot of unknowns with COVID-19. I think that there's a chance we could lose games. So I'd like to have a full slate and certainly have a full 7 home games as we expected to have for our fans and for our student athletes before the start of the season, or before the pandemic.
All right, so what we do know from that, we do know now that Georgia Tech is still on. It's just being moved a week later, I think. And then North Carolina is not happening, which was interesting. And he talked about it in this press conference, but the clip was not good. It was even worse than that. So I did not put that clip in here. But basically, we would have had to go to North Carolina and play, and we weren't doing that because the contract that we had, and this is what he said, the contract that we had was for North Carolina to come and play a home game for us. So we weren't doing that.
The other part about it, too, I mean, legally it positions us well, too. We're not saying, no, we won't play the game. They're having to pull out. So, per the contract, there is a stipulation we still get paid on it. So
we might still get paid for that one. So that's good. So because they pulled out, and that's normally how these contract things work.
Well, the other thing too that comes out of that too is with practice happening and being delayed. I'm not sure we could even play a game based on the time frames that the NCAA put out there for you having to practice. So I think part of this is figuring out when they want to start, because you don't want to start practice too soon if the game is going to be a week later than what you initially anticipated. So at the end of the day, I think that affects practice, and I don't think they could, even if they got UNC back on, I'm not sure they could have played that game based on the NCAA guidelines.
Interesting. All right. Well, a little bit of I'm just going to go real time here. I just looked at my phone because I got an alert, and it says college football season in jeopardy. Power 5 conferences reportedly hold meeting amid concern that fall sports can't be played. This is interesting. We'll see what comes out of that in the coming days, I'm sure. So this was on the Score app, which I love, by the way. If you don't have the Score app and you're a sports fan on your phone, you need to get it. It's just called The Score. NCAA football season is in jeopardy due to coronavirus. We all know that. Power 5 conference commissioners held an emergency meeting on Sunday, and there's a growing concern among officials, growing concern in quotes, among officials that the college football season and other fall sports cannot be played, sources told ESPN. It does not look good, one Power 5 athletic director said. So Big Ten presidents are reportedly ready to postpone all the conference's fall sports, ideally until the spring. After a meeting on Saturday, they've asked commissioners and university presidents from other Power 5 conferences if they would do the same. Mid-American Conference obviously was the first FBS league to postpone all of its fall sports season. They did that yesterday on Saturday. The postponement or cancellation of the season reportedly seems inevitable, but one of the Power 5 conferences will need to lead the way. Nobody wanted to be the first to do it, and now nobody wants to be the last. Power 5 coach told ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting. I did put a poll up, by the way, on Twitter, and I don't know if I didn't include this in our notes. So just sorry to break away from what we were doing, but I just wanted to get that out there because that's it's kind of
important.
It's kind of breaking news, and some of the stuff that we're talking about may not matter if that's the case. I do want to find my Twitter poll. I believe that 60-something% of you said that you did not think that college football would be played in the fall, at UCF. So let me find my link here. Here it is. I put out the poll, will UCF have a football season in 2020, a fall football season in 2020? And 65% of you, 65.5, said no. And I tend to agree with those people. I don't think it's going to happen. And I've said this all along. Last week on Live, Local, and Loud, I was on there before our show. They're the show that is Monday through Friday on WDBO 107.3. Before us, we're on Tuesdays. Anyway, I was on there, and Jerry Daniels asked me, well, what do you think? What's your percentage that you think that college football is going to happen or UCF football is going to happen? And I said 35% at this point. I'm 35% confident that it's going to happen, or there was a 35% chance that it would happen. So, interesting.
I just think there's too many schools, man. I mean, if you think about it,
and we've said this from the beginning.
Yeah,
there's 128 teams or whatever,
and
or
then
more.
85 members of those teams as you move along. So, you know, you've seen division amongst the conferences themselves, and to me, in my opinion, they've been playing a game of chicken with the NCAA. Right? NCAA, you need to cancel the season. P5 conferences, no, you need to cancel the season. And I think at the end, we're now getting to that long-awaited deadline.
We've already seen the FBS do it, basically. We've seen Division II do it. I don't know about Division III at this point, where they're at. I haven't followed that. But even though the MAC is a lowly, division in the FBS, they are an FBS institution, conference. Even though they're the lowly one, they were the first ones to say that they were not going to play. So, you have to think that more of the larger conferences are going to say that they're not going to play once somebody starts the ball rolling.
Well, you actually need the teams to play, right? If you don't have enough teams to play and there's so much schedule variability, there's no way to plan all of the logistics around that out. So, if you have all of a sudden have an outbreak, it's just too many moving pieces for me. And I think once these conferences start going down, there's just not going to be enough teams to play.
Obviously, I want it. I'm not saying 35% chance because I don't want them to play. Of course I want them to play. I want to have something to talk about. Number one.
Yeah, this is going to be a long season.
We've been doing radio, we've been doing podcasts, and it's been a very long off season anyway because nothing's been going on since the end of basketball, basically. Cut short at the tournament.
Yep.
So, of course, I want sports to talk about. I want UCF sports to talk about. I really want to watch some UCF football, there or not there. I don't care if I'm at the stadium, to be honest with you. I'd be perfectly happy watching it on TV. I can see better on TV anyway, especially when I'm talking about it. So I love going to the games and all that, but if it's not safe, if for some reason, I honestly, and you can go back and when all this was happening, and we talked about this in the past, I was like, by August, by September, this will all be over with. I really thought that it would, and it's obviously not. So I was wrong on that. I will admit, mark this on your calendar, I'm admitting that I was wrong. Not very often, but once in a while. So, should we go back to the Danny White thing?
I mean, we can still say what he said. I mean, it may be immaterial at some point, but at least point out what he talked about.
Let's just play the clips. So here is Danny White talking about the confidence in UCF's COVID protocols.
It's kind of been a roller coaster. If you would ask me that a month ago, I'd probably have a different answer than I have right now, and a month before that, I'd given a different answer. Obviously, the community spread we're seeing in Central Florida is concerning. We have scientists at UCF that are projecting that we could be in a better place by the end of August. I hope that that's the case. That has a huge impact on the amount of fans we can have in our stands. Our number one priority, though, throughout this whole experience, really dating back to the spring, and we keep going back to our guiding principle. We're a mission-based organization, and it's about providing student athletes an awesome opportunity. So it's about our fall sport teams and doing everything we can to hopefully support them to have a fall competitive season. That's what we're here for. They've worked so hard to get here. And so we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that it's safe and healthy for them to compete this fall. I think that our football team in particular, who's been on campus the longest, we now have both soccer and volleyball on campus as well, but our football team has been unbelievable on how they've handled the responsibility to each other and how they have really been disciplined about following all the guidelines, face masks, social distancing. We have a very successful bubble right now within UCF, certainly with our student athletes. It's going to be more challenging when the rest of the students come back, but I have confidence in our kids and how mature they've been and how serious they're taking this and how important their competitive season is to them. And I think they're doing everything they can to protect it.
Do you remember when Americans landed on the moon?
Do I remember? No, but I've seen the video.
Right. You've seen the video, and the audio was crystal clear?
Yeah.
What is wrong with Zoom? Why can the audio, it can come from the moon, but it can't come from across, like,
an internet
the
channel?
City? Yeah.
It's data packet loss.
Oh, man. It drives me crazy. Come on, folks.
At least there's no nothing backing up, no doors slamming, any of that kind of stuff going on.
We're ready for that, though. I'd rather have that than this horrible Zoom audio. But there you go. That's what he had to say about the testing protocols and his confidence in it. And then he was also asked another similar question about that on the UCF testing and the bubble that they've created.
Number one, it's for them to continue to do what they've been doing. I spoke to our football team last night and reiterated that they've been great, and it's going to be hard as a college kid to go through a fall semester and be as disciplined as they're going to have to be. But for us to play these competitive seasons for all fall sports, that's what's going to need to happen. We have an awesome new partnership with Orlando Health. They've been great to work with. Our testing is as good as there is in the country. They have their own, I'm going to butcher the name of it, but the best testing machine. They got it against PCP, the whole nasal swab, the most accurate test. So we've had very quick turnarounds as compared to others I've talked to, colleagues across the country. We're advantaged in that we got a big city, we got a big health system we're working with. I think that the protocols we put in place for the American Athletic Conference they're more strict than the Power 5 protocols and the NCAA protocols. We have great medical professionals, team doctors across the conference that have all come together to put together, I think, a very safe plan. We keep saying, there's no way to eliminate the risk of this virus. I think that we're doing everything we can to reduce it as much as possible.
All right, so the other big thing that is on people's minds, and we've already talked about this, is the financial hit that all of this is causing UCF. And this is what Danny had to say about that.
It's going to be significant in any way. There's no scenario where, I'm again, my number one priority is I want to support these kids to have a fall season. How that plays out, we're working with county officials and health officials at UCF on what capacity numbers we can have with fans. We're getting to a place where we can communicate that to our season ticket holders. Obviously, we're on schedule to be sold out again this year, so we're going to have to work through that. And there's financial implications to that, but that's something I'm going to have to deal with on the back end as we figure it out. And I'm not the only AD in the country. I think all of us are going to have to figure out how we handle the financial impact. It's going to be significant, but it can't be a part of what's guiding our decisions. It's got to be about the student athletes. That's kind of what our focus is right now. We've got some work on scheduling to rebuild a full schedule, and we want to give them an opportunity to compete for another conference championship and a New Year's Day bowl game.
All right, sorry for the horrible audio again, but this question here was asked by a reporter, and he basically was asking what happens if someone inside the bubble or inside the UCF team or a team that UCF is playing within the week tests positive, and what Danny White had to say about that.
So we have very extensive protocols. It's a pretty thick booklet of medical protocols that our team across the conference and our folks, our team physician, we've had a lot of help with infectious disease experts with Orlando Health. I don't want to butcher the answer to that question, but there is a plan. We're very strict about contact tracing. We've gone through that several times this summer. And we are not going to put our team on the field. Obviously, if we're not comfortable with where we are with respect to the virus, and we're definitely not going to compete against another team unless they meet our standards, our testing standards, and we're comfortable with what those results are. So the team physicians will be speaking to each other before each game. If there's going to be travel, obviously, for the visiting team. Before that visiting team gets on a plane or a bus, there will be dialogue, and there's going to have to be a comfort level that we're in a good place with respect to the virus, not just for student athletes, but for coaches, anybody that's on the sideline. We're also going to take steps to really eliminate as many people that aren't critical to the game from being on the sideline to make sure that keeping that bubble is safe as we possibly can.
All right, and then the final thing that Danny White was asked that I chose to use out of this press conference, somebody asked him about what he thought about KZ and the recovery that he's made.
You know, I've got so much joy just seeing Mackenzie skipping around on our practice field this summer. Really excited for the news he just got. I don't know what that means in terms of playing football in the short term, and leave that up to him and our doctors and our athletic trainers. Really excited for him and not only for his future football career, but just the rest of his life. The doctors were just so pleased about how everything looks for him, how he's recovered, and I think it's an awful lot of good luck and blessings, but it's also a testament to a young man that has worked his tail off, grinded, and deserved everything, all the good news he's getting from a health standpoint. He's really working.
All right. Well, everybody is excited about that for sure. So, all right. Well, that does it. I again apologize. It drives me crazy that the audio quality is not good because I want to bring that to you guys and let you guys hear that if you hadn't had a chance to hear it. But thank you for dealing with that, and hopefully those will get better as time goes on.
There was one thing we didn't include in those clips that I wanted to point out, and you know, there's this open question about stadium capacity. So one of the things that Danny had said that what I think that's important for us if we do end up playing is that he stated that it would be up to the Orange County government to decide one way or the other. Now, the city of Orlando has been much more conservative in their approach with this stuff. Orange County has allowed Disney to stay open. So, you know, when you're looking at it from that perspective,
there's a lot of lobbying going on.
Yeah, no, I get that. And the flip side of that, too, it's obviously revenue for the local economy. But
which they're reducing their hours, by the way.
I saw that, yeah.
Because there's not enough people out there.
But at the end of the day, you know, Danny also made the point to say the reason you haven't heard any communication on this for us season ticket holders and you know the fans in general was because they're waiting on the county. The county states that they think that the situation will be better at the end of August. Now, whether you believe that or not, whatever, but they're clearly taking the lead from the county and Orange County on what they're going to communicate and what decisions they're going to make.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we're waiting for them then to figure that out. So, and like we said, this is changing like hour by hour. So
literally during the show.
Yeah. By the time this show comes out, it could be something completely different. So the whole thing could be called off by the time this comes out. You never know. All right. So here's your new segment, Roger. Do you have an intro?
Not yet, but we'll say this: it's either going to be hot fire or it's gonna be hot fire trash. So we're gonna call it "Take It or Leave It," and you can either take this and say yes, that's a great take. I'm gonna see the play on words there.
I see.
Or you leave it and say, hey, let's toss that in the trash because that's a terrible take. And more often than not, on social media, you see terrible takes. In this instance, we kind of talked about this and alluded to it a little bit earlier. But, you know, the question is it time to force student athletes' hands on getting payment or asking for more things than what they have already been compensated with, right? So the question is, do you take that and say, yeah, it's time to put your foot down, or do you leave it and say, nah, let's continue to ride this thing out and see where it goes?
Okay. And this is for us to discuss, or?
Yeah. So
Okay.
What's your opinion on this? Do you take it and say, yeah, I think it's time for the schools, the member schools, and the NCAA by extension of that to put their foot down, but it's really going to be up to the schools and say, hey, enough is enough, or at the conference level, because there's even division within FBS, right? The P5 has the autonomy rules, and the rest of us don't. So, does college football get its act together and actually come together for something collectively and say, hey, we're putting our foot down here, no more of this, because it seems like every time that something is asked for, something else is right around the corner, and there's got to be, at some point, there has to be a line that you do not cross. So When does that happen? Is that now?
Well, I think it pretty much needs to be now. You can't force them. I don't know if that was the best choice of words, to force their hands at it. But then again, this will go on forever if nothing's done about it. Obviously, some things are in the works, and we talked about all this before, but obviously those things are in the works, and they need to be worked out by whoever is going to work that stuff out. The NCAA, I think it's their opportunity to work this out and to help the schools along, at least give them some guidance on what has to do this thing. And I mean, there's a lot of implications with stuff. There's all kinds of stuff that is involved in this. So,
well, I mean, you've got Title IX things that have to be figured out, right? There's you saw some things that have been floated out there of, hey, let's reduce the scholarships to 45 for football players and increase the amount for those people, right? So what are you going to do for the rest of those folks that don't have now a scholarship opportunity? They're not going to be able to go to school. Yeah. And the whole point behind this is for more people to go to school. And then if you do that, effectively the reason for doing that is to reduce the number of Title IX scholarships that you have to have out there too. So not only are you hurting those guys that are now turning into walk-ons, for lack of a better term.
And it's an opportunity for a lot of kids.
Yeah.
A lot of kids would not have the opportunity to go to college unless they got a scholarship. A lot of people, a lot of football players, a lot of student athletes come from,
modest means.
There you go. That's probably the easiest way to say it. It's the same way for people that aren't student athletes as well, but there's scholarships available, there's grants available, there's all kinds, but the student athletes get a lot more bang for their buck. Play for 4 years for a school, and we'll give you this, basically. So, like I said, I'm for them making a little bit money off of their name, image, and likeness, but the rest of this stuff, I don't think now is the time to do this, and I don't see amateur athletes unionizing. I don't see that happening. So.
It just feels a little disingenuous.
It does. It does. Absolutely. Okay, so
my take,
yeah.
if we want to say that,
yeah.
I think for me, I think it's a take it, right? And the reason I say it's a take it is at some point the math just doesn't work anymore, right? And obviously different conferences have different situations that they're dealing with, but let's just focus on UCF for a minute. You're talking about a $52 to $57 million budget per year. You've got to cover...
Which was supposed to be upwards of 70 this
right,
year.
Exactly. And, that's being impacted, obviously, by COVID, but let's set that aside and just talk about all the expenses that go out there. College athletics, on purpose, they balance their budgets to the point where they're spending what they're bringing in, right? And all of that is spent on either coaching salaries or facilities or improvements for the student athletes, right? Those are the primary three drivers of expenses for a football program. At the end of the day, two out of those three, and really the third one too, because what they're doing is they're competing in the market for the best coaching staffs that will coach the players, get the best out of them, get them, that brand equity like we were talking about and that platform, but more importantly, making them better athletes so that they can present themselves and get themselves ready for the next level. So
go to the next level and make all kinds of money.
Right. So at the end of the day, to me, I feel like you can only bleed the stone so dry. I don't know what the right answer is. I think NLI is something. It's happened already. It's not like something that we're arguing about. It's here. They just have to figure it out. I just don't know. I think the colleges are going to have to get to a certain point where they're going to have to put their foot down. It's just like any negotiation. There's a red line, and I feel like we're to that point.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I'm yawning. Okay, so let's take a break real quick.
Keep charging on with us after the break, Knight fans, as we discuss the Keep Charging On Fund as Knightline 234 continues.
Raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney is our commitment to you at Chad Barr Law. I'm Chad Barr, and as a UCF alum, I am proud to present Knightline at Night, Central Florida's only call-in show dedicated to our UCF Knights, every Tuesday at 9 p.m. And remember, if you or a loved one are injured in an auto accident, call us at 407-599-9036 to schedule your free consultation, or visit us at chadbarlaw.com. Offices Altamont Springs. Go Knights, charge on.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each and every week on the Knightline Sports Network for the AAC Report. We bring you in-depth coverage of each school in football, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, golf, tennis, and more, as well as bring you insider interviews and focus in on the biggest games and news of the week. That's all right here each week on the AAC Report, only on the Knightline Sports Network.
Welcome back, Knight Nation. We're talking about the Keep Charging On Fund. I actually had the pleasure recently speak with Mark Wright on the Knightline at Night show about what UCF is trying to do. And basically, this is designed to help out with some income shortfalls that are happening, obviously, with COVID and other things. And I want to stress this, as Mark did as well, this is a separate initiative from the normal fundraising that's happening. So
the Charge On Fund.
The Charge On Fund. Yep, exactly. So it's super important to UCF, especially at this critical time, and it's an avenue for all of us to participate in helping UCF get through this, because it's tough. They've already lost some revenue off of this, and this is their way of doing it. And what's really cool about it is a lot of the coaches, Danny White himself has already contributed to this. I've actually contributed, unfortunately, several times, but I've already contributed to this multiple times. And now there's actually something out there. I kind of want to highlight this. Jimmy Skiles and Eric DeSalvo from UCF on their Twitter profiles actually are now putting UCF memorabilia out there, and all they're asking you to do is donate to the fund, show proof of that on Twitter, and you could win this memorabilia.
Cool. That's very cool. Yeah, we've had Mark Wright on Knightline, and then we've just recently, last week or the week before, 2 weeks ago, I think, had him on Knightline at Night. So Mark Wright's really cool to do that, and he's the one that does all of this campaign fundraising stuff, and he's a good guy, and obviously you guys support Knight Nation anyway if you're listening to this, so do what you can for them, and then they'll keep charging on. I mean, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
there's a lot of revenue lost from all this stuff, so money's got to come from someplace, and I guess the best way to get that is from your alumni and your fans. So.
Well, and their goal is $2 million, right? And so the important piece of this...
Danny White put in $100K.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, John Giuliano put in $25K. The coaches, I think, put
Coach
in,
Dawkins.
$50K or something like that. And
yep.
So, obviously there's not a lot of people that are going to be able to put that much money in, but... it's a big deal.
Well, I think the message is they need all of us, right? So even if it's $10, $50, whatever, if everybody puts in, I mean, there's 300,000 plus alumni out there, and obviously we're not going to get 300,000 plus to donate, but if everybody puts 10, 25, 50, whatever you can give, look, I'm sensitive to what's going on with COVID. There's a lot of people that have lost jobs or dealing with financial stress. This is not meant to pressure you, but if you do have it to give, even if it's a small amount, give it, because UCF is definitely needed.
Absolutely.
This time.
And everybody knows that there's a lot of stuff you can give your money to. But obviously this one is important to us. So if you can, you can. If you can't, you can't. No pressure from us. We just wanted to make everybody aware that it's going on. And that.
And they've actually made it easy. So one of the things we've all complained about in the past is how hard it was for UCF to take our money, right? So it's super simple. It's a website. Like I said, I've done it myself. You enter in a few bits of information about yourself, your name, when you graduated, how much you're given, and then your financial information. They even have connectivity to your bank account if you're comfortable with that. Well, they'll take it directly out of your bank account, and it's not hard. So it's super simple.
I thought I even heard that you can donate cash.
I don't know. I didn't
simple
try that
than
option.
I think I heard that you can, I don't know if you can mail them cash or whatever, but I think that I heard that you could do cash as
Send your
well.
pennies.
So,
They're worth more than 50 cents now.
Absolutely. All right, with the coin shortage especially. All right, next we open the Ask Knightline inbox. Next on Knightline 234.
Night Nation, this is Adam, one half of the dynamic duo that is the Sons of UCF, which is found only on the Knightline Sports Network. Join UCF Mike and I each week as we bring you some of the latest from in and around UCF sports, including such great segments as the Josh Heupel Translator, Top 8 Lists, and Cow of the Week. We'll also bring you some of the most in-depth and unique interviews with some of your favorite former Knights. You don't want to miss a moment, so make sure you subscribe to the Knightline Sports Network wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll take care of the rest. Go Knights. Charge on.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley reminding you to tune in every Tuesday night, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app for Knightline at Night. Brought to you by Chad Bar Law. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action, and you never know who will show up. Once again, that's Knightline at Night, every Tuesday, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app. Go Knights and charge on. Ask a Knightline is brought to you by Chad Bar Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Bar Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Bar Law today. All right, time again for Ask Knightline. We're answering questions listeners posted on our Facebook and our Twitter at hashtag Ask Knightline. So we're going to bring a couple that were a little older. What happened, this is Golden Knight 2, what happened to Houston, FSU, and even UCF's players having COVID? Do you see a fall kickoff this season? Well, we've been talking about that, and obviously that was from a while back, but these were questions that were still there before, so we never used them, so I wanted to use some of them. So Golden Knight 2, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I mean, I obviously at the time, Houston had a bunch of players that went away. I mean, UCF's been a little bit more lucky and I think a little bit more cautious about how we're approaching it. But at the end of the day, seeing the news that's coming out today, I just think there's too much variability to continue with the season.
Yeah, and Michael on Facebook basically asked the same question. So, yeah, nothing. I don't think it's going to happen personally. I like I said, I wish that it would or whatever, but I don't think so. Richard Stone did put one in this week on Facebook, though. What's your take on why most of our recruits are from out of state so far? I think we're just getting the best players wherever we can get them. Yes, there's great players in Florida, and we're getting, players coming back into Florida from other schools. But I think that we're just going for the best player. They don't have to come from in-state. We want the best player no matter where they are.
Well, and, let's go back to that national brand argument, right? I think UCF as a national brand, it's different than it was in 2013. It's different than it was in 2006. The whole thought process behind this is the Miami years and how Miami built the U and put a fence around Miami and all that other stuff. The reality of it is the difference now is every single major football university in the United States comes to Florida for recruits, right? So for us, we have to trust that our coaching staff is using and leveraging our national brand now to be able to identify the best available. So if you have a 3-star in Miami, generally speaking, there's the argument that a 3-star in Miami is better than a 4-star in Ohio. But, I don't like to use the word but, we're still evaluating position by position, and if it happens to be someone that they've identified in California or there's Texas recruiting connections, obviously.
I don't care where they come from, and as long as they're a good football player.
Yep, as long as they're the best ones on the field at the time, bring them home.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, that does it for Ask Knightline this week. We appreciate you sending in questions. Please continue to do that because we will continue this segment because it's always been one of my favorites. So we will be definitely posting that again in the coming weeks. And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. All right, the UCF rowing team captured the American Conference Team Academic Excellence Award, as announced by the league on last Thursday. The Knights earned the distinction as the conference's top-performing academic team in rowing for the second straight year, and having also collected the honor in 2019.
The American Athletic Conference also announced its Scholarship Athlete of the Year awards for the 2019-20 season on Wednesday, and 3 UCF student athletes were recognized in their respective sports. Congratulations to softball senior Aaliyah White, men's soccer senior Cal Jennings, and rowing senior Mia Cleary. They were all chosen by the faculty athletic representatives. Each will receive a postgraduate financial scholarship of $2,000 and a trophy.
All right. Congratulations to all those guys. UCF placed a record 302 student athletes on the American Athletic Conference all-academic team, which was announced by the league on last Thursday as well. The Americans all-academic team for the 2019-2020 features 54 members of the Knights rowing roster, 52 from the football squad, 37 from track and field, and 28 from women's soccer, 23 from softball, 20 from baseball, 19 from men's soccer, 12 each from women's basketball, cross country, and volleyball, 8 from women's tennis, 7 from men's golf, plus 6 each from women's golf, men's tennis, and men's basketball.
Wow, I don't know how you got through that read, but that's a lot of success right there.
It is. Absolutely. It's awesome. And this is, on a personal note, a lot of you remember that before Trace, there was a guy named Troy that was the host of Knightline. And so congratulations to former Knightline host Troy Onsrock and his wife Marisol on the birth of their twin boys last month. Big deal. Huge deal. They are extremely happy, and I know that Troy is extremely happy to have twin boys. So congratulations to them for sure. And congratulations to you for getting through your first episode of Knightline.
Woohoo! And best wishes for some sleep, Troy.
Absolutely. Yeah, that will take some time. All right, this has been Knightline 234. I'm Andrew Phegley.
And I'm Roger Phipps. Go Knights!
Charge on.
UCF, charge on to the field. With our spirits, we'll never yield. Black and gold, charge right through the line. Victory is our cry. B-S-E-T-O-R-Y. Tonight our Knights will shine.